In the previous tutorial, we started working on moving our inventory container to a single select as opposed to multi-select inventory screen. And we created this delete button on our screen as well. But now we want to start working on creating some functionality for this delete button. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is actually go back in to our slots here, our selected slots. And now we're going to utilize that current choice variable that we created in an earlier tutorial. So we're going to say global variable of current choice, iManager current choice, and we're going to set it to the corresponding slot. So for this one, it's going to equal 1. Right? So for this one here, it's going to equal 2. This will help us keep track of which slot we're actually working with here and what we're going to be, if we need to delete it or move that slot. So 3, come on, 4 and 5. Now for this section, it's going to be a little bit different. When we're deselecting an item, we actually want to return the value of current choice to 0. So now we just need to copy and paste this value here into these. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and let's close these up. And let's close up, actually, let's just close up these here, the selection ones, so we can see our code a little bit more easily. So like we did with our items, we need to indicate that the user is hovering over the delete button. So we can actually copy and paste our code. I'm going to work on the buttons at the end of my items here. So I'm going to paste it actually down here. And I'm going to say cursor is on buttons, because we know we're going to have at least one more button. That's like a move button. We might have more, we might not. And let's change this to button delete, and let's change these to button delete as well. All right, let's just do a quick preview here. Let me get rid of my old preview. Let's do a quick updated preview and just make sure that that's functioning correctly. There we go. Of course, when we click on it, nothing happens. We haven't told the software to do anything yet. All right, so that part is working. Now we need to think about how we want to handle the deletion or the deleting of an object here, and whether or not we want to handle that in this section of our code or we want to do it in an external event. Now I think by now you know sort of how I handle these things. I'm going to create another external event actually for this. And first I want to create a variable to run the code from our external event. So I'm going to go down to iManager. I'm going to click on a child variable. Click on the button to make a new child variable. And I'm going to call this one delete item and hit apply. Now I'm going to go down to external events and create a new external event and rename it inventory delete. Okay, let's associate it with the basic kingdom, add an empty event, and link it before I forget. All right, I try to get in the rhythm of doing that because in the past I have forgotten to link and it's driven me nuts. All right, so now we have a way in and out of this code. So let's set our delete item here. If delete item is equal to 1, we run this code, and let's go ahead and bookend this now. For when the value of delete item is 0, it'll just shut this code down, so it won't continually run. All right, so what do we want to do here? Well, let's go back to our inventory manager. And when the cursor is on a button, right, and let's add a subcondition here. When the left mouse button is released, we want to essentially run our code, right? Or do we? Well, do we need to run the code if there is no current choice? In other words, if current choice is 0, do we need to really run this code? Not really. So let's think about how we want to do this. Left mouse button was released and the value of current choice is greater than 0, right? That means that there's a choice involved. Then we'll run our code here. So we want to set delete item equal to 1. What do you say we run a test here? So let's set some code in delete item, and let's just say we want to change the text of slot 5 equal to yay, right? Yay, we did it. All right, let's run a test here and see if we got this working. Okay, it shouldn't run that code. That's good. Current choice should now be 4. All right, it's running the code. Good. So let's go back in here. Now that we know that this code is running, we can delete it. And we want to actually delete the current choice. So we're going to have to use an expression again. So let's get the base of our variable, which is Bob inventory.isFilled. It doesn't matter. We got to change this anyway to current choice, because that's what's holding the actual slot that we want to delete. So let's do open bracket, because we're getting pretty good at this now. Global variable string, because it wants to convert this to a string, one entire string here. And we need the value of imanager.current choice. Let's close our parenthesis and close the bracket. And let's set that equal to 0, right? So that we're getting rid of this. But we don't want to just change the item, the isFilled, I mean. We want to change the item ID as well. And we also want to change the count. Right? Even though we're not doing much with counts right now, we want to be thorough and do that. The last thing we want to do is we want to run a new inventory check, because that updates our inventory. So the question is, where do we do that? Do we want to do that here? Do we want to do that here? Well, let's do it here, because it won't run this code unless it satisfies those earlier conditions from Inventory Manager, right? So let's do it here. Let's add an inventory check. There it is. Set that equal to 1, and let's move this up before we close out this code here. All right, let's see how we did. Let's see if our expression actually worked, or if we have to modify it, excuse me, at all. Look at that. All right, let's hit the I key, make sure it's gone. All right, now let's do the ultimate test here. Let's run a preview from main and go get items and delete them. So let's bring up main again. Let's run a preview from main. Okay, we didn't link this here, so I'm not surprised that none of this works right now. We didn't link it. So let's get out of main though, and let's go into this room here. Now this is a basic kingdom room, so we have functionality because we've linked our external events to this. Let's delete that item there. Now let's go get the sword here. There it is. All right, let's delete this item. And you're like, no, don't delete the barrel obstructor. That's all right. We'll get one later on. And let's get our health potion. Didn't work. Now this looks to me like I messed up in our basic kingdom room collision. I bet you I didn't update the ID for that item. And health potion. And I would be correct. Look at that. So that should be 4 for the correct item ID. All right, last preview. Excuse me. So this is why you check, and then recheck your work. Let's get out of main. Let's go into this room here. Okay, let's delete this item, and let's go get our health potion. All right, it should be in the second slot. There it is. All right, we're moving toward a nice functional inventory screen.